Today we're diving into the chaos unfolding in South Sudan, where the phrase living on the edge has taken on a whole new meaning. Imagine you're a soldier and your job is to protect the nation, and instead of prepping for battle, you are actually figuring out how to sell charcoal in order to meet ends meet. That's the reality of many in South Sudan right now. The pipeline that funnels their precious oil to the outside world has been ruptured thanks to the ongoing conflict in neighboring Sudan, and it has turned their economy into a sinking ship. The oil revenue, it's almost non-existent. The paychecks for government workers and soldiers, well, it's zero. So let's start to talk about the ruptured pipeline. The rupture occurred on the 10th of February 2024 due to a clog in an underground pipeline in territory controlled by the Rapid Support Forces in northern White Nile State, at a village about 20 kilometers south of the town of Al Gataina, near the front line with the South Sudan Armed Forces. Due to military operations in the area, pump stations operated by the state-owned Bashayir Pipeline Company, BAPCO, ran out of diesel, causing a gelling incident, a clog in other words, that led to a major rupture. Pipeline engineers assessed the area to contain the situation, but repairs have been delayed by the security situation. Teams were mobilized to the area for repair of the rupture and only managed to commence repairs after security clearance was obtained. Telecommunication outages in the area have complicated the efforts. Moreover, restarting the system requires the pump stations to have fuel, which is apparently still not the case. A key security concern is that without oil money, South Sudan will eventually be unable to pay its security forces, which could trigger instability in the country. However, the rupture only affects flows on one of the two branches of the pipeline system, namely the Petrodar pipeline, which brings oil from Upper Nile in South Sudan. So, what is the current economic situation? Imagine not getting paid for 9 months. You're showing up to work every day, and instead of getting a paycheck, you get the satisfaction of knowing that you're working for the love of your country. And by stress, I mean crippling stress, because that doesn't pay the bills. Some government workers are now moonlighting as restaurant staff just to get by. Talk about a career change. A person's government salary that eventually shows up is only worth about $8 a month. That's not even enough to buy a bag of maize flour, which, by the way, costs 5 times more than it did a year ago. Inflation is at a jaw-dropping 35%, and the local currency? Let's just say it's in a freefall competition with their oil revenues. The very people who are supposed to be guarding the country are abandoning their posts because, well, they've got bills to pay. A certain member of the armed forces decided he has had enough. His new gig? A charcoal broker. He has forgotten the uniform and is now more concerned about getting a good deal on charcoal these days. It's like something out of a dark comedy, except this is the harsh reality. Even teachers, who've been holding the fort for decades, are feeling the pinch. A school deputy head with 36 years of service is now relying on small donations from students' families just to survive. And this is in a country where schooling is supposed to be free. President Salva Kiir is having a rough time. He has watched as the finance ministry has gone through 6 ministers since 2020. Talk about job insecurity. And while there's money somewhere in the system, it's not making its way into anyone's pockets. And Kiir's latest move has been cracking down on corruption and setting up a single account for all revenues. But let's be honest, it feels like a band-aid on a bullet wound at this point. International partners who once waved the flag of support for South Sudan's independence are now side-eyeing the situation with frustration. They've seen the promises of development funds vanish into thin air, and hopes for election keep getting postponed like a bad date. The UN has basically thrown its hands up, pointing out that 3/4 of the population is relying on humanitarian aid just to scrape by. So what's next? South Sudan is trying to diversify its economy, from tourism, farming, you name it. But when your civil servants and security forces are busy hustling side jobs to show up for work, those plans start to feel more like wishful thinking. And who can blame them? You can't eat promises, and you definitely can't pay rent with patriotism. Let's just hope they find a way out of this mess, because right now, the light at the end of the tunnel is looking pretty dim. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more African news. Until next time, keep it curious.